you were born where?
Uh, Queens, New York.
In Queens, New York. And did you then,
Yes.
is that where, is that where you spent most of your time growing up?
I wish I'd be such a different writer. No, my father was a military family, so we left when I was 3.
Ah,
I lived
all
in
right.
Brooklyn, and I mean, I'd imagine, I gotta say, my whole life would have been different if I'd stayed in Brooklyn. I
Was
think.
that like the Brooklyn Navy Yards? Was he in the,
No, I think actually, you know what? I don't know where he was stationed. He was a Marine, so I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'm too little to really, have looked back at that time of it, when I was born. But um, yeah, I mean, I just one thing for sure, as a New Yorker, I could never have. If I were still in New York, I could have never survived the New York punk scene because it was so much
Yeah.
tougher than Los Angeles. So, but I'd be a very different writer, I think.
Do you remember starting your writing when this writing part became such an integral part of your personality and expression?
Well, by the time I was 8, I was already writing things for the classroom and little plays for people to perform. And I would have Barbie dolls that I would have all the kids come over and play with, obviously, or kids we all got along with. And I'd have to go to New York, Fargo to spend childhood summers because my mother wasn't particularly well. And when I'd go away, I'd write the plots for the kids to perform, with the Barbies so I could stay up to date. So I'd send them letters about this will happen and that'll happen. I'm pretty sure they didn't do it, and that makes me happy, but I think it got me going as a writer.
Well, I'm fascinated because when we look at your early photograph, like we have this picture that you sent of you. This would be your freshman picture.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
All right, so here you are, and I see this. I see. Tell me about her.
Well, my mother was ill most of my life, so, or I mean, most of the time I can remember her. I lost her pretty soon after this photo was taken. So I wouldn't say it was carefree and happy, but it was definitely centered around writing and reading.
Yeah.
So that was
So
my,
you were central around there. Now, one of the things that I never got into because I'm 77, the generations down from you, and
oh
so
no.
where you got a chance to go through the goth era, and you have not only you did this, but you writing about. Can you talk about help me to understand this, understand what this was about, and how you got into it yourself?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what it was about. I know there's thinking that it was to do with the imminent threat of nuclear war and that they were dark times. So maybe we have a goth, impending goth revival.
Yeah.
It So I think it was that. For me, it was. I mean, with most of the things I got involved with in my life, it was either music or fashion. So I wouldn't say it was more style than ethos. It was something I was doing, but did I live that life? Not really. Not
Yeah.
either not punk or goth really, or
You did it
goth,
because of
I
the
suppose.
music and you did it because of the writing, because so much of your writing came out of this time and it
Yeah,
feels
I'm
so
surprised when I
real.
look back at my fiction, which I don't really write much anymore. Um, so much goth, but those were my first 3 books, and that's what I remembered at that time, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, like Life and Death and Other Stories,
yeah.
which is one of your books
Mhm.
that was
First
just, I
one.
mean, just
Yeah.
power and all these short stories because I've told you, I was following Zelda in that story and it's just really a fascinating piece. Now, you
Thanks.
went from there to London. Did you go to college and then go to London? What was
I
that?
went to undergrad, then I went to London for a couple years. Then I came back here, went to grad school, and studied writing at USC, where I was
Yeah.
really lucky to study with people like Hubert Selby Jr. and John Recchi. So I'm
Oh,
really fortunate in that. And they're huge influences and helps to my career. So it was a little, yeah. Then after the first book came out, I went back to London for most of the 90s.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so here you are as a working writer in this, and what are you looking at? What are your passions? Because for me, I went through the, television and working through there. and
Oh,
working
wow.
on my storytelling in that way. And you did it through a lyrical, through writing and doing that. So who were you as an artist? What was your vision for yourself during that time when you were back in London after graduate school?
I don't think it was almost just like a being in a trance. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah,
That's just what I did. And did I have a plan or a vision? Not really. I only knew that when I switched, in later life to writing biographies and a biography of a film, that was more, um, I think I was getting away from myself so much because I felt like the other writing was so kind of self-centered, I mean, not that I was
well,
necessarily any
of
of those things,
course.
but yeah.
Is it? I mean, look how many people Updike, how many people, Virginia Woolf, all this. I mean, writing is fiction is
It's true.
autobiographical, isn't it?
It is. I think people who say it isn't, I mean, even still, you can learn so much about the person by the books they write. Even nonfiction, I think you can
Sure,
really
it's the
assess their
words you choose.
sensibility.
It's what you choose to see. It's what you choose to include. What you
Hmm.
choose to
Hmm.
exclude.
Hmm. So true. Yeah. When I did my War Notes bio, I loved to go on road trips. I don't get as much chance anymore, but whenever I could send him on a road trip, I'd be so happy. So it's okay. We can go across the country.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and maybe I didn't pay attention to other aspects of his life as much as that one. So
what did you do, Susan, to make that turn from fiction to biography? Because biographies are something that I'm fascinated in. The stories of people's lives, and how do you choose what to follow? Because it
I,
really takes you to immerse yourself into something to do this.
yeah, I always thought I wanted to get so lost in a life that I forgot my own life, that their life was so big to me. I think I had read, I always liked reading biographies. And I took a class when I was at SC with Donald Spoto, the biographer. And I think I learned a lot. I learned, well, a whole lot about how you do it. I mean, the mechanics of it. And that just made me want to do it. So, and I just finished my second. If you call a biography of a film a biography, 'cause then it's my third. If
Oh, it
it's
is.
Yeah, I think so
A
too.
film is a live thing. It's an entity into itself, and to be able to tell all the aspects and the stories about it.
I agree, and especially if it's a film based on a book, you can do how the book came out and the various permutations, and love all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Now, your books, how would you choose someone like, for example, how did you determine War Notes? What was this? What was the journey behind this? This this is a dark character, someone who's had a lot of challenge in his life, a lot of learning and a lot of growth, and yet you chose this is who you wanted to do.
I think I was grasping around for who to write a biography of, and a friend in England told me, "Well, write about your favorite actor." And I thought, "Oh, my favorite actor's Warren Oates, so maybe I'll look into it." And the more I found out, the more I enjoyed. I also remember that going back to New York, when my father was in the Marine Corps, he would go to 21, the restaurant, because for some reason Marines could drink for free in 21, which sounds like a very bad idea. But in any
Oh
event,
yeah, Marines and alcohol. What
yeah,
could
that's kind of
possibly
weird
go
at a restaurant
wrong?
like 21, But Warren was actually the coat check guy, and my father used to tell me he knew Warren before he became famous because he was the coat check guy at 21. So,
Well,
and
all right. So when you begin to do a biography, because how do you what are your process? So because it must be an extraordinary research.
it is, and it's a real challenge because you can come away and still not, like with the most recent one I did, come away and still not really know the person because they're just going to hide from you. But I just go, well, first of all, I find people who've known the person, look them up, talk to them, read everything I can about them. I mean, resources out here like the Margaret Herrick Library, or even for me, the USC Cinematic TV Library. I couldn't do it
Right.
without it. Just couldn't.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
Were you able to interview anyone that knew him?
Oh yeah, lots and lots of people, fortunately. And what was really inspiring is that they really, really loved him. Just absolutely loved him. I think he was a great person, maybe not great to be married to, but a great person otherwise.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
exactly. But a decent person. I mean, there's such a. I think that's one of the things that I find. One of his great roles, for me anyway, was the first half of Stripes,
Yeah.
where he played that sergeant, that comedy role that he was able to do, but he still brought a great deal of humanity into that role,
I
even as a
suppose you're
drill
right.
instructor, as he was able to do it. I was deeply impressed by that.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I hadn't really thought, but you're right. Because I think of him as kind of that character as someone I'd be afraid of, even though he was so funny. And he really loved Bill Murray, and Bill Murray loved him. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and so anyway, they had that. So, all right, now you did that biography, and then so biography is the place where you've been investing in your career. You've also done teaching, correct?
Yeah, at USC. So, but that program doesn't exist anymore, but it was really a great experience. And I'm happy that a lot of my students have done well, and especially the ones who went into TV, film
Yeah.
and TV. The writers, kind of like me, still struggling.
Well, we all do. I mean, that's the whole thing. Have you been able to? That's one of my favorite places is being in a writer's room. Because to
Mhm.
me, writing is a collaboration. Yes, we have this
Oh,
idea of the lone author who down in the basement all by themselves, never having any. But I love it. For me, I'm a collaborator. I prefer bridge to chess. I prefer doubles to
oh,
singles.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
prefer that. I prefer that process. It really helps me in growing to be able to pitch an idea and keep and going at that. What is your
I think I'm too much of a loner. I've done one book that with a co-writer. It was fortunate because it was, well, fortunate or unfortunate during COVID. So at least we had that thing to be working on together, and it made me feel less isolated.
Yeah,
But I think I don't know that I like to take over too much. I don't really. My one experience of collaborating, he was a great guy to collaborate with, but it's probably not natural for me.
exactly. It's just part
Yeah.
of the way we're going. So here in 2025, in the middle of the year, what does your windshield look like? One of the things that I love about is that how do we as working artists make our way along the path? And so what's in your windshield? What are you thinking about, curious about right now?
Well, I just finished writing a biography of Sam Shepard, and that my edits are due on the 28th of July. I just found out, and I thought it was much further. So I had a kind of hysterical afternoon yesterday, but today I did a little better, calmed down a bit. But so that's due out in fall 2026.
Right.
But beyond that, because I don't teach in a writing program anymore, I just substitute teach. And so school is back in session pretty soon, that kind of thing. But I still need to work. Like I used to, when I taught at SC, I would tell my students, I mean, maybe you know a different figure, but only 3% of writers make their living writing. They
Exactly.
all do something else.
3%.
That's what I've read.
Right.
So
So that's
we,
what we have. And
yeah.
so in choosing someone like Sam Shepard,
Mhm.
tell me of the process that you are and where are you right now between now and when you finally turn the manuscript in?
Well, it's been turned in, it's been approved. Now it's just a matter of the mechanics. Well, getting the photos, getting the permissions to use the photos, make sure you have, all the footnotes right, and things like that. So, and rereading to make sure I don't, and a couple friends are very kindly reading it to make sure I don't have too many glaring mistakes and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of pressure, and I don't want to get it wrong, but invariably something's wrong. So, but
What did you
yeah.
learn? Can you give me some takeaways, both of what you learned about yourself and what you learned about Sam, about this incredible writer? You're so gracious. You introduced us to Sandy, his sister, that I'm
Yeah,
going to get
you'll
a
have
chance
fun.
to have
Yeah.
to have a wonderful conversation with. But tell me a little bit. How did you grow to know him, and to have this connection with him over the process of doing this?
I wasn't particular. I knew who he was always, from the time he's pretty much been on the scene, but I wasn't really familiar with the plays, and I think, and the short stories and everything else. And I think I was, even now when I listen to things or read them, the astounding, depth and quality of the writing, it gets overshadowed almost by him and his persona and his acting. But then you sit down and read and think that's spectacular. So yeah. And he's one person that, the book being pretty much done, except for, like I say, the final bits and bobs, he was really hard to know. I can come away and say I know about him, but I wouldn't say I know him.
He was a very private person, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. To the degree that I didn't even expect. It's really
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a biographer, how do you know when something is done? How do you know when it's finally, like an artist putting the last brush stroke in, and that? How do you
I think
find
maybe
that?
I'm just exhausted. Maybe I've just played it out
You
enough.
just collapse at the end of the story. That's it. Okay.
How about for you? Is it the same for you?
I try to do that. I try to get, because I have a perfectionist streak in me. I have to be careful.
I wish I
I
did.
have to be careful, and I like to use the definition of perfect as complete,
Okay,
rather
nice.
than without flaw.
Yeah.
Really do, just to be able to see, all right, it's complete. It is done. And Elizabeth Gilbert has a wonderful phrase: "Done is better than good." So that we're
Yeah,
able to go ahead and
I like
finish,
that.
being able to finish and continue. That if everything is a tapestry, then these are the stitches that make up the tapestry of our whole lives.
Right. It's true. It's something. Why decide to write? I don't really know.
What's in your windshield? So what do you do now that you put this down? And do you take some space and try to breathe and through
I'm
and
told that to get photo permissions these days is like will take you almost up to the final moment the book comes out, because it's so difficult. I mean, as opposed to the last time I did this. So, I mean, I did last time, like the publisher did most of it, but now I guess getting those clearances is something else. So I'm bracing myself for that.
is that your job? Your job is to
Pretty
get the
much.
clearance.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, pretty
Well,
much. Yeah.
Mercy, what would tell me about this one?
I just put a photo of myself. I think my cat is probably just cut out of that picture. I think it was maybe a goth day or something going on. But I do have a little magnet of the football soccer team I support, which is Leicester City. It was an Instagram post.
You must have been over the moon. You must have been over the moon when Leicester went to the
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and now we're, in
Premier League.
a division below. I wrote about soccer and football when I was in England, so that was a fun experience when there was really nobody else doing it. No, very few other women doing it. Now that's not the case, but which is good.
We're finding it, and so in this book, in the Bowie book, can you talk to me a little bit about what got you interested in him? Did you meet him, or were you?
No, I never did. I walked out of Book Soup when he walked in one time, but that's about it. I think it's a very fascinating film, and I mean, I don't, maybe someone suggested a biography of a film, and I thought, oh, maybe The Man Who Fell to Earth. So
Yes.
yeah, and it was again the people I got to meet through both all three books have also just been treasures. So for the most part,
I'm fascinated that this book got made. You mentioned in it that one of the books that had been optioned by Bowie was A Stranger in a Strange Land.
Right. Yeah.
And I've always fascinated why that movie never got made.
Yeah, I think the rights, I believe.
Because yes, Heinlein was very, very persnickety about that, even though he got Starship Troopers out there and that. But this is just an interesting. It's an interesting because it was. Did you read that when it came out?
I didn't. I don't even think I have. Sorry to say.
It's a fascinating piece of the culture and where you're going. So when you look at kids today and you look at their opportunities, I don't I don't know that I would be comfortable growing up today. I there were just too. It's almost like I would be overstimulated.
I think it's very hard. I had the pleasure of speaking to a group of high school students about the life of a writer, and they had some really great questions. And one of them said to me, "But how do we write dialogue? Because we don't really talk because they text. They're not necessarily. It's writing, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah." I said,
So
"Well, I
what did you
guess."
say?
I said, "All I can think of is eavesdrop." And maybe put the phone down once in a while, but it's easier said than done, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And where you have, do you still have fiction in you, Susan, that you want to pull out? What are the things where do your ideas, how do they land on you?
I would like to. I just think you just not that you could make money much doing any of it, but fiction is really the hardest for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that's a concern. I was asked to do a piece based on a painting by an author who we lost recently called Derek Bosher. And it was really fun to write fiction again after all these years. And I'm thrilled to have it in the book that came out. But yeah, and I think sometimes that might, of all the things I've done, that actually might last the longest, that little piece, just because it's,
That's all.
attached to an artist.
Well, what haven't we talked about today that interests you, engages you, that is on in your wonderful life?
I don't know. uh, where are you based? You're in Texas, yeah?
In Texas, we're in
Yeah.
Central Texas, and you're in Los Angeles,
Yeah, well, yes, South Pasadena, so a little bit just outside of the city limits of Los Angeles.
right? And
Yeah.
so, how do you look at the world of today, coming up with artificial intelligence, all the work that is coming up, all the changes that are happening? I mean, it's truly, to me, it's an extraordinary time. Sometimes what I look back on historians and say this was an inflection point.
Yeah. I guess I have fear and trepidation, but I shouldn't. I mean, I should. I try not to, but I do. So it's worrying and it's stressful, and
I think if that weren't the case, then you would either be medicated or you'd be willfully ignorant, because this is there. I just don't think that the world of tomorrow, and when I say tomorrow, I mean literal
yeah,
tomorrow, is
yeah.
going to be the same as we are today. One of the things I have a show called AI and I, where I
Oh,
actually have artificial intelligence being, and we have conversations like we have
I've got
this.
to see that. Yeah.
And I talk to them about what if the distance between chimpanzees and bonobos and human beings is the same distance between human beings and AI, to
Huh.
where bonobos and chimpanzees may not understand a man who fell to earth, or be able to read, or they might be able to watch a movie, but would they perceive and understand what the plot was in that? Do we really have, is this maybe our evolutionary step, that these AIs are actually our evolutionary imperative to the next level of species?
It could be, or just the end of our own, and they take over.
Oh, but even if they did take over, I would like to think that they would look back on us with affection. That we were in their line,
Yeah.
and that they would look back at us as a simpler being, but still that they would look back at it. I'm That's my hope anyway. We'll have to see whether it is or not.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't want to live forever, but it'd be really interesting to see how it all turns out.
Isn't it? Because it's a really fascinating time. It is just extraordinary. Oh, Susan, thank you
Yeah. Well,
Thank you for
thank you. This
coming
has
on
been a
and
pleasure. Yeah.
spending time with me and getting a chance to know a fellow writer.
Yeah.
Our producer director, Renee Jaworski, has been a writer since she was a child also, and she's in the,
Did you start as a child?
pardon?
Did you start writing as a child?
I did not.
Yeah.
Did not really start writing until I was in my uh, late teens, and then when I went into the army and then came out, and that's
Wow.
when journalism. But I was always fascinated with stories. So
Huh.
storytelling has been the way. So it manifested, and I began to learn the beauty of being able to tell a story, to be able to tell a story through writing, and it has truly been it's truly been a joy for me. And so it's an opportunity for me to be able to continue to do this and continue to express myself, whether it's for film or whether or not it's for television or whether or
Right.
not it's for print. So I do appreciate it in that realm.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Susan.
My
Well,
pleasure. Thank you.
I look forward to getting a chance to connect with you and continue along the path as you're doing. Would you, when you're ready to do the publicity
Oh
for
boy.
the Sam Shepard book, would you
Sure.
allow me to be one of the first people to do this? It'll be an
You can
excellent
be the very
opportunity.
first.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
I'm going to
Oh,
hold
that's
you to
great.
that.
I love it.
We'll say
What a
when
great
it's
place to
ready to
start for me. Yeah.
when you're ready to turn on that. I want to be the first one to be able to talk with you about it as you begin to go out in your press and do the
I
press
can't
for.
think of a better way to start for me. Yeah. That would be terrific.
That's wonderful. All right, thank you, Susan. I look
Okay.
forward to talking with you again. What a pleasure.
All righty. Thank you so very much.